couple months ago, I was struggling to find 5 stars. So I asked for some help from you all, and I got tons and tons of recommendations. So back in March, I read the first group of recommendations. I believe they were all ones that I owned. I know 2 of them were. There were some varying results from that, but I enjoyed what I read. So now I'm going to read through those books, but they were ones that I had not heard of before they were recommended to me. So in this video, I will be reading The Bus on Thursday, Slade House, and The Strange Library. So first up, I am reading The Bus on Thursday by Shirley Barrett. This was recommended because it is weird and it is written in blog posts. And if you call something weird, I'm probably interested in it, and I really like mixed media and things like that, so I was very drawn to this one. So we are following a woman who is diagnosed with breast cancer, and to get rid of it, she has to have a mastectomy. So she has a lot of feelings about this because her body is changing. Also dealing with the fact of getting cancer in general and everything that comes with that, with losing relationships, both like romantic and friendships, having to leave your job because you just can't keep up with the demand, and all of just the emotional, psychological stuff that comes with that. To cope, she decides that she is going to write these blog posts, just kind of documenting her days and everything that she's going through, both with going to checkup appointments and being paranoid that the cancer is going to come back, and how that is infiltrating her dreams. Pretty early on, she is cancer-free, but she's still very angry, just kind of in general, and then also at the situation. She's not the best. There's been a lot of comments where I'm like, girl, no. But then she finds an ad for a job as a teacher, and she applies, and they have a phone interview, and they hire her on the spot, and they're like, when can you come? So the next day she starts. They are providing her a house, and it is kind of like quaint and old person-ish, but it's free. But there's like tons of locks on all of the doors and windows. It's very interesting. And there's only like 13 kids that go to this school. She rides around on a bike and nobody's there. Everything seems kind of outdated and odd. And the teacher that she replaced disappeared in the middle of the night. Nobody knows what happened to her. She didn't leave any sort of indication, but she was very well loved in the community. So our main character is dealing with like being the replacement for someone that is so great, starting a new job, living in a new place. There's like no cell phone reception anywhere. And it's generally interesting to read, but I'm not finding myself like obsessed with it. And I think it's because I don't really like the main character. She is getting better as we go. She just makes some comments that are not great, but it's fine. I'm interested to see where this goes between the teacher going missing and like obviously this town is really weird. So not currently obsessed, but I think it has potential for me to start enjoying it even more, so I'm excited. 2/3 into The Bus on Thursday, and I don't have a lot to say other than like I don't understand what the point of this is. There's not really any horror going on. It feels a little bit like a mystery. There was one moment that I was like, actually, this is funny. But other than that, like, this is just fine. Like, feeling like 3 stars. So, like, I am still liking it, I think. But I'm kind of confused. And not, like, confused because I should be confused. I'm confused about what the point is, I guess. I would like to clarify that I do have a shirt on. So I finished The Bus on Thursday, and I'm gonna give this one 3 stars. I think that it had some very interesting elements in it, but overall not specifically the execution, but there's just something about it that didn't work for me. I didn't really like our main character, and you're not supposed to, but like it wasn't unlikable in a way that was specifically fun for me, and the plot was not there a lot, which is true for some of my favorite books, but sometimes it just doesn't work for me. And this like worked for me some, but not completely. It 100% does fit the weird category, and also I enjoyed that it was told in these blog posts. We were 100% getting her thoughts, so who knows if anything that happened was true, because she was an interesting character, so I don't know what to believe. It's a very short one. I would recommend it. I'm not specifically like you have to go out of your way to read this right now, but if you like strange little books, it's a decent time. So next up is Slade House by David Mitchell. This is 5 interconnected stories, which is... Sorry, I had to break up a cat fight. This was recommended because it is pretty quick. It is 5 interconnected stories about a weird house. So everything revolves around the Slade house. A stranger will greet you by name and invite you inside. At first you won't want to leave. Later you'll find that you can't. So every 9 years, the residents extend an invitation to someone who's different or lonely. For those who find out, it's already too late. It says it's a haunted house story, and all of that sounds so interesting to me, but I read the first one. I hate deckled edges. They're so difficult. Anyway, this is very cool. Like, hello. And then we have this map, which I think is really interesting. It looks like we have a labyrinth situation going on in here. Also, I've not read anything from David Mitchell before. And this came out in 2015. So story 1 is set in 1979 and it's called The Right Sort. And I feel like it was so boring. I did not like the writing style. It was 36 pages. And maybe it's because of the time period that I didn't really enjoy it. Maybe it's because for some reason I don't love books with male British narrators. We were also following a young boy, which doesn't always work for me. So in this one, it's this young boy that we are following, and he ends up in this house and he starts to kind of see things. And I just like truly did not care. After one story, I'm tempted to not continue. I'm going to because they're going to be different stories. And I was so intrigued by this book because one of my favorite books of all time, Pen Pal, is also, I believe, 5 interconnected stories. But this one so far I'm not liking, but also I'm curious enough to continue. Also, it's short, and there weren't many books that were recommended to me that I had not heard of, which makes sense. I'm very in the book world. So I'm going to get back to reading. I think I'm just going to do a super quick check-in at the end of every story to tell you very briefly what happened and then my thoughts. So I just read another story. It was from page 36 to 83, so however many pages that is. And this one was set in 1988. And for quite a while, I was like, I hate this. I don't like the writing. I don't like the depiction of women. And even though maybe it is the correct whatever for the time period, I was still just like, I'm so annoyed. I don't want to read this. And then it actually got interesting. So we now know kind of what's going on with this house, and I'm intrigued. And I hope as it gets more present day, I will continue to like it more. So in that one, we were following a cop. He was a detective inspector, and he's going to investigate this disappearance, and he can't find this house, like the road that it's on. It's pretty common. Well, in the 2 stories, like this house is kind of hard to find unless you're supposed to find it. And somebody ends up pointing him down the street, and he finds this woman who says that she lives there by herself. She was just widowed, and he ends up kind of forming a relationship with her, and we are just watching that. And then with that, we find out some more details about the Slade house. And I'm intrigued now, which is good because for the first probably 70 pages of this, I was like, I do not like this. But now I do, and I'm interested in reading more, which is always good. Okay, I didn't get it at first, but now I get it. The 3rd story was so good. There are still a couple like comments that I'm like, that is annoying. I don't like that. But this one was set in 1997, and it was called Oink Oink. My issues with this story are the very fat-phobic comments. Oink Oink is referring to a person. And I don't really think that it was challenged in the way that it should have been. There were a few little comments that were like maybe trying to do that, but between this being set in 1997 and written in 2015, like, it's just not what I want it to be. But like the story itself, so the story is following 5 friends who are their school's paranormal investigative club. And they find out that on the same weekend of the same month, 9 years apart, there are people that go missing at the same place. And they decide that they're going to go see what's going on. And they get there and immediately they find the alley and they find the door and they walk in and there's this party. Things progress from there. We are following our main character, Sally. She is the one that is referred to as Oink Oink. Also, this just like is peeling off and it's really making it annoying to hold. And she's the one who's able to like actually open the door to get in. The things that happen in this were just so like mind-bending and it was very interesting and I was really into it. I like the setup of this story a lot more than the previous two. I liked being with not like an old guy character but not a young boy. Like I liked following a female character. I'm hoping that as the story goes I'm less annoyed by the writing and like the time period, but once again this book is almost 10 years old, so like probably not going to happen. Also, this one was a bit longer, which I think helped me enjoy it more. So the next one is set in 2006 and it is called You Dark Horse You, and it's another pretty long one. The last two are a little longer than the first two, so I think that will go well. And after that last one, I'm really excited to continue. I am very quickly crashing, but I finished another story, so I only have one left, and I did enjoy this one. I think that this one wasn't as entertaining, but it was necessary because we learned a lot of stuff in this one. So we are following Freya, I believe, and she is the sister of Sally who went missing in the previous story, and she is trying to figure out what happened to her sister. So she agrees to meet with this guy, the uncle who introduced the paranormal group, one of the guys, to the whole situation. So she is meeting with him and kind of learning what he has learned, but he has a history that makes him maybe not so reliable. I cannot say any more than that without giving things away, but I thought it was interesting, and like I did pick up on some of the clues with like the things that happened, but not at first. So I thought it was interesting. It was a nice change of pace, I guess, because obviously all of these stories are pretty different, and I don't know how else we would have gotten a lot of the information that we ended up getting. So I have one story left that I am going to finish in the morning. I'm excited to see how this wraps up. Like, is it gonna end with the end, or is it going to be the end of our character group? I don't know. But like, I'm so happy that this went from me really disliking it to really enjoying it. It's always really fun when books can do that, even though I wish I liked the beginning. So I finished The Slade House. I listened to a little bit more of the audiobook while I was getting ready for bed, and then I finished it this morning. And I ended up really enjoying this one, which really was such a turnaround. I was like, I'm gonna hate this book. I'm gonna be so miserable the whole time I read it. And I was going to give it one more story. So I was intrigued by the end of the second story. And then the third one, if I didn't like it, I was going to DNF. But the third one was my favorite. I liked how this wrapped up. I think that it brought everything together really well. I thought it was interesting. I was not expecting the direction that this ended up going in general, and I had a lot of fun with it. I just wish that the first two stories worked better for me. That could be because I don't really like historical stuff. That could be because those ones were by male narrators and like one of them was a child, and then also the older time periods just like not working for me with the comments and stuff that were made, and that definitely went into the third one as well. I feel like in the last two there wasn't really much that I noticed. There's probably one or two things, but I feel like the third one was really bad, especially with the fatphobic comments. But I'm so glad that I read this. I obviously had no idea that this existed, and it was really fun, and it ended up being something that's kind of really up my alley. So I had a great time. Lastly, we have The Strange Library, and this one is just fun. Like, what is going on with this? I do think that it might be a little annoying to read, like, okay. But this one, oh, it literally, like, this is the start. Interesting. I don't know what to expect for this one, but I'm excited. I am going to go hang out with my family for a little bit. We're going on a train ride. So when I come home, I'm going to read The Strange Library. I'm assuming going to be so short because the text is this size throughout the whole thing. And it is, actually, there's not page numbers on here, but I'm going to read half, check in with you, and then finish the rest. This was recommended because it is short. Whenever I was asking for books that everyone thought that I would give 5 stars, by the way, I will link that post in the description. I know it's older, but I'm still pulling books from that. So if you have any recommendations of things you think I would give 5 stars, you can still comment on that. But I specifically was like, I like weird things. I don't tend to like longer books as much, fast-paced, things like that. So that was kind of the criteria that people were going with. So I'm going to go ride a train and then I will be back to read this. I don't know how to exist with this book. Like, my bookmark is in it horizontally because there's this flap and then this one. Like, this is awkward. And then there's this, like, weird smile just in my face. I don't get it. There's also no page numbers, but I'm halfway into this book. And it is so short. I think I showed you the text is giant. So, like, it's very, very quick. So the back says, a lonely boy, a mysterious girl, and a tormented sheep man plot their escape from the nightmarish library. So this, I think, was written in 2005 and then translated in 2014. And we are following this boy who goes to return some books to the library. And he goes to return them and he's like, actually, I'm looking for some books too. So the receptionist librarian is like, go down the stairs to this thing. Also, in this book, there's like tons of art. So he's supposed to go to room 107. So there's that. There's things throughout. And he goes there and there's this weirdo old man. And he is like losing all his hair, but he has some like scraggly chin hairs. I don't really know. And the kid is like, do you have this information on this tax information of like how this country ran their taxes, whatever, in this time period, which is an interesting subject for a kid to want information on. But the man is like, yeah, let me get you these books. And he comes back and gets it. And he goes to leave and he's like, you can't leave. Those are ones that have to be read in the library. So he's like, you have to go to the reading room. So I'm going to take you there. And that's when he gets stuck and then has to escape with the mysterious girl and the tormented sheep man. I don't really understand what's happening with that, but I cannot say any more than that because I feel like that is even a quarter of the book. So far, it's interesting. I'm curious about what's going on, and I'm having a fun enough time with it. Wow, I just realized how dirty my glasses are. That's bad. So I'm going to quickly finish this one up and come back to you with my final thoughts. Sorry I can't say more about this, but if I even said 2 more sentences, I would be telling you another 25% of the book. I finished The Strange Library, and I think this is one of those books where you're supposed to, like, sit and think about what this thing represented and this thing was supposed to mean in the grand scheme of like existing in life. And those just aren't specifically my kind of book. I think that as like this on its own, it was 3 stars. I thought it was interesting. It was so quick to get through and it was strange and kept my attention, but I have no real thoughts on it past that. Generally, though, I did enjoy it, and I'm glad that I read it. Once again, I will have the post linked in the description where you can give me some 5-star recommendations, or you can leave them in the comments of this video. Also, if you do want to leave a comment but don't have a recommendation, you can leave me a book for The Strange Library. It is currently August. I am participating in and co-hosting Battleathon, where you read books and you get points based on your star rating. So I wanted to do this video during this month because of that. So I'll have all details for that linked in the description if you would like to join. My team is the Snakes, so you should definitely join us. Thank you so much to anybody who has recommended me books really at any point, but specifically on this post. Also, if you did not see my last video where I read other recommendations from that list, I will have that here for you, and I will see you soon. Bye.